boat was it?
It was a 24-foot outboard with a cabin and a 150 horsepower engine. So
Oh,
it did 30 miles an
A lot
hour.
of boat.
So
Hello.
Helena?
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Yeah.
Helena.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm at work now, so I didn't test my computer, and I guess I don't have a speaker, so I have to call through my phone. So I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm working now.
Whoever
I
was
see.
speaking, the voice came across really garbled.
Okay, I will check the whole. Yeah, I am here, but I have to talk to.
Is everyone on? Yeah,
Maybe
Peter's here, Susan's here, Helena, myself.
Yes, I'm here.
Who else is here?
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, John.
Joe's here. Joe's here. He just went to his office.
Charlie's
Okay.
not here. We're missing Charlie.
Charlie, missing Charlie.
hey, Susan, I
Yeah.
really thought I loved reading your analysis of this whole thing, but I had to read it twice. It was well done.
Thank you.
It was very well done. Thank you, Susan.
Well, and thank you for yours, John.
Yes,
You know-
John, I wasn't cutting you out, but I'm looking at Susan and I don't see you, so too bad,
Well,
John.
I don't use my office looks like you remember the movie The Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
The guy at Princeton kind of went crazy in his office, had books every place and graphs and everything. My office is competing against The Beautiful Mind for ugliness.
That's a surprise, John. You're very anal.
Well, only when it comes to numbers.
Oh, okay.
I was pleased about my realizing that they had not written off most of our friends up in Middletown. They had not written off very much of their building.
Yeah.
And they want to get rid of it.
Well, I don't think they want to get rid of it. I think they want to supplement it.
Yeah.
And renovate it.
Yeah.
So,
If we could get rid of it, then we could go back to scenario one.
Shall we start? I'm sure Charlie will catch up with us.
yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, he's
hi,
there.
Charlie. Yeah, we can.
Hi,
Okay.
I only have the small picture. I don't have the full picture, but I had it on, then it changed. All I've got
Okay.
is
I've got the agenda
yeah,
instead of faces.
yeah, that's what I got, Peter. Also the agenda, and then a small picture. Peter, you look fine.
Shall we do, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And shall we do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To
To the
to the
flag
flag
Of
of the United States of America
America and to the republic
and the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well
Thank you
done,
very
John.
much. The next item on the agenda is just a brief kind of where we stand and any questions before we get into the detail numbers. Kind of a brief update about the last 2 or 3 months from Joe, just so that we kind of, if there's things that we need to know as we're thinking about the numbers, Joe can highlight them for us, and then we'll get into the detailed numbers. Joe?
Yes. Well, so one of the biggest things, of course, is that back in March, we suspended collection of fares. And we really don't know how long that's going to go on. we made an assumption for the budget that it'll be for half of this coming fiscal year. I don't know. Obviously that's going to depend on what we see happen as everything starts to reopen. And do we get a second wave, or do things start looking better? We just don't know right now. So, until then, we're figuring we're collecting no revenue. The other stuff, of course, is things like the additional cleaning we're doing. We've had to have our cleaner work 6 days a week just to keep clean them every single day. But then there's been some savings too, because we are running less shoreline shuttle. So in that program, we're actually looking a little better. And of course, there's less dial ride running because we get like 10 to 12 trips a day right now. So that's pretty much one bus, 1.5, just depends on how they're spread out. And then there's a lot of costs like cleaning items. It's not huge money, but we're probably into the tens of thousands now. And then we've been putting in driver barriers. For the small buses, they're pretty inexpensive. They're like $500 a bus. But for the Gillig buses, we did a joint procurement with some other transit agencies, and it works out to be less than $6,600 per bus installed. So, that's a little more money.
Joe, can you repeat how much that costs?
It's $6,500, and I just typed the number in. About $6,500.
So that's okay, got it. Thank you.
And that's installed.
That's per bus?
Per bus, yeah. And there's 4
Wow.
of them. So it's about, it's less than $30,000. It's less than 27 for the all 4 Gilligs. But being that they're all new, we didn't want to put an expensive barrier in. We want something that's going to last the life of the bus. And these are the barriers you would put in if you put in a barrier from the factory. They're actually from one of the other bus factories, not Gillig, but a competing manufacturer. So this is an OEM type part. This should last the whole life of the bus, which is 12 years. Those are really the biggest things, kind of just making these, and a lot of it's little items too. I mean, just putting all the decals, we just spent probably a couple thousand in decals. It's little things like that, just to stay away from others. We got seat signs coming to close off every other seat. So just a lot of little things like that. But again, the loss of fares is going to be substantial, and we don't know when our contract work's coming back. The PHP is still not going. I've heard that they are working on a plan to come back, but that we don't have a timeline yet.
Could you remind everyone what CHP stands for?
Partial Hospitalization Program. So it's a program we do with Middlesex Hospital. And advertising, I don't know what we're going to see there, because we all know that we're hit hard by this. So I don't know what the collections are going to look like. I think it's going to be a while before we see some good revenue come back there. The trolley, actually, they've been able to, pretty much all the people who advertised last year with them that paid for it to run are advertising again. So
That's good.
they anticipate they should be able to fully fund it. And you know, and we had said that because we're only looking probably if they're short anything, it's probably very small. That we told them that with the CARES Act money we're getting, that just we'll make sure it runs because it's important to the town of Clinton. And so they've got commitments for about 15,000 so far of the about 16 that they need. So that's looking good. But you know, everything else is kind of.
Joe, what's happening with the ridership on X Mile?
Extra Miles continues to run at about half, although today for some reason has been really busy already. We had 7 trips at one time this morning, so yeah, it kind of fluctuates from day to day, but it stays right about the 25 to low 30s per day. So it's still it's still probably the strongest service right now. It's right up there. Does about as many people as Trolley and Shuttle doing it does in a day, sometimes more. So it's remained pretty popular through this.
Joe, which service is this?
This is Extra Mile.
Extra Mile, thank you.
Joe, have any of our drivers or any staff had questions about COVID-19?
Questions as in what?
Has anyone gotten it, or has anyone gotten sick?
We have had one positive case.
Okay.
Yes, we have some people on the sick leave on the COVID-19. We have like 3 people there, more than 3 people
More than 3.
used that are sick for 14 days.
Yeah.
We have that, and I think that's it. 4 or 5 people. Some of them coming back.
No more sick though.
Yeah, they were not sick. No, they would just take precautions because the doctor told them that that's probably the best way for them to do it.
Is there any onus on us if presumably we don't check the temperature of the driver, but I was wondering if we send out drivers who had a temperature of 100 or whatever is required, would that be an adverse problem for us?
So we aren't checking temperatures. And we're just telling people if they're sick, stay home.
I was at the clinic twice today, and at each time they stuck this thing on my forehead, said I was intelligent and brilliant, and I had no fever.
Well, and
Did that start taking up an extra Peter, to get all those compliments?
Well, actually, I got a bargain rate on that, so I thought it was well worthwhile.
we've done a lot to kind of separate the driver from the public in terms of the barriers we've put in already. And you know, on the small buses, all the small buses have a barrier. Gilligs don't have them yet, but we're doing rear door boarding, and we have the front roped off, so nobody's coming up to the front of the bus. Wow. Of course, the exception to all that would be if somebody needs assistance. Have to get in closer contact with them. But for the most part, people that need more assistance are not traveling much right now at all. So there's a lot less of that assistance happening than normal. So, you know, it's not. So if somebody were sick, and I mean, they would have very, very limited contact with any of the public. And we're
Do the
requiring.
drivers wear a mask?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
It's a requirement. So, yeah. I mean, we've been given a thermometer. We just got told this week that DOT has checked with all within the state, and there's nothing preventing us from checking temperatures. But none of us yet in the state are doing it. And
Now, are the passengers required to wear masks?
yes, the governor's order actually required that passengers wear a mask when using public transportation. But we're not strictly enforcing that. And the whole state's not. And that's something DOT's asked us to not strictly enforce. We do have signs everywhere saying, we do have signs right at the door saying that your mask is required. I'm on the bus. You put it out on social media and everything. But we just don't want it to be an opportunity for conflict. You see
Right.
news of people, employees at stores asking customers to wear a mask and it turning into an argument, and we just don't want that to happen on the bus. So we're strongly encouraging it. We're reminding people, but and most people are here, but there's still some that are going to choose not to, and we're not going to fight with those people. They just
Joe, do you know how many passengers actually are not wearing masks? Is there any way of identifying that number or percentage?
It would just be a guess. From what we've heard, it's not many here.
My concern is more with the driver. I gather from what you said earlier, they're pretty much insulated from passengers who might have the virus. Is that correct?
Again, as much as possible. Now, if somebody, the FTA has made it clear that the ADA rule still applies. So if somebody needs assistance to the door, we've got to still do it. So there's, unless if they don't need assistance, or if somebody's using a wheelchair, and we still have to help them on and secure them. But again, there's much less wheelchair people using wheelchairs and people who need assistance out there, because they're probably in the group that's most vulnerable. So they'd be smart to stay home, and it seems like most of them are doing that. So there are opportunities like that to come in contact with people, but otherwise,
well, it's important that we show concern and that we have taken steps to protect our employees, et cetera, et cetera. So your explanation should satisfy any questions that come up about how we protect our drivers.
Yeah, we've done it a lot, and we're one of the first ones to have barriers in all of the smaller buses. Others are still, I don't know what they're doing. They're still trying to get, some have done purchase orders made them. So we're installed. We've been installed for a couple of weeks now. And then we're supplying them with all of the things they need. And we got tons and tons of hand sanitizer finally. We got wipes for them to wipe down the bus when they get on. Driver change times, we'll wipe it down. We've got masks, tons of masks. We got a big order of masks in just a couple weeks ago. Gloves, I mean, we've got all the recommended PPE and cleaning supplies. We also did, was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a company come and they did a disinfection, and then they put down some coating that's supposed to kill viruses for up to 30 days. And it has shown to be effective on the coronavirus. So we're trying to do anything we can to try and reduce any risk of transmission.
When the gentleman or woman comes to clean down the buses, do they have to wear a mask?
Yes, he wears a mask.
Okay. And does he wear gloves?
Yep, he does.
Okay.
And then, I mean, when we had our positive test, we pulled the bus out of service and actually had a contractor come and do a thorough
Right.
deep cleaning
Excellent.
with fogging and all that stuff. So
Joe, thank you very much. The important thing that I derive from your telling us is we are doing more than the minimum required to ensure the safety of our drivers and passengers. And that's what our goal should be, and I think you've satisfied it.
With that, why don't we, any other questions of Joe?
Could I say something? Joe, I also would like to commend you for the notifications that you put on the website and also that are sent by social media to us regarding the steps that you're taking to safeguard not only our employees, but also the passengers. I have a question in terms of the central office. How many people are coming to work in the office and how are they protected?
So we're back to everyone. We had 2 people working from home for a while. Except for the dispatch area, everyone has their own space where it's easy to stay away from others. But when we're not, everyone's supposed to be wearing a mask out in public areas if there's going to be other people around. Like I said, the dispatch area is the only place really that you have more than one person in it. We've told them they have to wear a mask when they're both in there.
Okay, thanks.
And we've even put up little, the 2 transaction tops we have in the dispatch area. We've had some Alexan barrier made for those, so that public comes in, which we also had closed down to the public until just last week. But now we're back over to the public. We have a barrier there, and we have one where the drivers check in. So again, we reduce any contact there. But with
I also like the fact that the dispatchers are vocal if you walk in without a mask.
did they say something? Did you
Of
get yelled
course.
at, Tom?
I get yelled at. I don't mind it. I mean, I think it's the right thing. No, seriously, because what?
Without the collecting fares, we don't have much public coming in. It's really just deliveries
Right.
coming in here. And then the other thing we did was we've moved forward with the mobile fare payments so that we're ready to go when we do decide to start collecting fares again. We'll have the mobile up and running. So people will be able to just buy the fares on their phones and not have to come in and not have to put money into the fare box and that we then have to count. So, to try and again reduce contact as much as possible and make they're just like flash passes where they would just show it as you get on the bus. So it reduces the time up near the driver. But again, the goal is to have, and the Gilligs too, have those barriers installed. I just sent actually the AFE to John and Leslie today for approval. So as soon as I get their approval, we'll be ordering the final barriers for the Gilligs. And then I just got to see what their installation schedule looks like. I'm sure it's quite full. But the idea is, again, before we start front door boarding and fare collection, that we have those barriers in place on those buses too, and so that every vehicle in the fleet has barriers.
With this, I'd like to go to the next one, but let me, Lisa?
Yes, John. Yes,
Would
John.
you make sure that when we write the notes for the finance meeting, that we highlight a synopsis of what Joe said?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I just think that that's probably the most important thing we'll cover today is well, funding our operations is going to be very important, but I meant in terms of things that we want to make sure that everyone on the board, and it'll obviously be repeated at the board meeting, but it would just be good to get this information out so people understand, to pick up on Peter and Joan's comments, how thorough Joe and the team have been in terms of protecting our drivers and our office staff. Okay. Helena, I think it's your turn.
Okay. Joe, can you open the please and the budget, and it's in the folder.
Yeah, I got it. It's beeping at me.
Oh, and then
Thank
there's
you.
budget
All right.
assumption too.
There we go.
Okay.
Does everyone have a copy of the budget in front of them?
No.
No.
No,
There it is.
Okay.
Everyone should be in there.
Uh-huh.
There we
That's
go.
got it.
That's 1920.
Yeah, that first one.
There you
Yes. Yeah.
Which one are you now looking at? 2021 or 1920?
No, 2021.
Okay.
So there's budget assumptions. There's two parts. I would start. I put a little summary there. On the expenses side, what I did, this budget is very difficult this year because we cannot compare. We don't know what will happen with the revenue, like fair revenue, advertising, and other revenue that comes for like Middlesex hospitals. So why did I, starting from expense revenue, I did 3.5% over the last fiscal year, the budget, and it's on the core services. When you look at the budget, you see the ADA and microtransit. I didn't put it there in the core service. It's a separate. So I kept. So I did 3.5% increase on the core services. ADA, I put it according to submission to DOT. DOT been asking us to give them budget on ADA, and that's what we submit to them. So I put it there here. We're not sure if they give us this money, but that's what we submit to them. As well, I did the same thing with microtransit. Microtransit, we put all the state money. We add 48 hours a week to microtransit. And we also, right now we have part-time drivers working there. I add benefits to it. It's 2 full-timers, and that's what we came up with, $309,000 on the expense side. And we submitted to DOT. And like I said, we put everything on the state subsidy. So whatever they decide, that we will go with. So but I put it in the budget. So
Helena, let me ask you one question. You added 48 hours, so what does that give us in terms of total hours for microtransit?
When you look in the bottom hours, I put hours there, 6,770 hours. So Joe know that more because that's what we submit to DOT.
Okay.
And so that's those two services. Other than that, the one I highlighted, those little shade area, those were not core services. Rest of them is the core services. And like I said, I had over 3.5% over last year budget. So when you look at it, the percentage will be a lot higher because those two services. Like John was saying, that's like 30% or something. So when you look at there, this is not an expense side. So now how I balance the budget, on the revenue side. On the revenue side, I kept staying federal money on the same level as 2020. Fair revenue we cut in half because we're not sure if the next 6 months we will collect anything. Same thing I did with PHP program, Middlesex Hospital, and advertising. I cut them in half. Microtransit, like I said, I put all the state money. And everything else I balanced the deficit I balance on the Federal Care Act, which is, they should help us with half revenue. And like I said, those program, PHP program and advertising. So when you look at it there, I highlighted that $168,000. So that's how I balance all the budget. So like I said, it's very difficult this year because we're not sure how we got to compare it, if that will work for us. So we came out, Joe and I came out with this budget. We talk about it, how we got it. Like I said, we're not sure what will happen to revenue with the other sort of income. We just got to do as we go. Let's see. Plus, like Joe was saying, we have some cotton services on the shoreline shuttle, but I put a full service like that would be back in the July 1st. I don't know when that will be, how we will do it, but it's the best budget we can claim. So, so like I said, all the money we receive money from ACT. I don't know when that will be, Joe. I think he's applying for the grant. Yes, Joe?
It's already submitted, yeah.
Oh, he is already submitted. So 168,000, that's what the part of the grant for the next fiscal year.
Helena?
Yes.
On your one summary, you said that for town appropriations, 162,846. And on the overall budget, you have 201. Can you explain the difference between the two?
No, it's the municipal 201. So when you add local grant, town subsidy, and local subsidy, it's 162. So when you take 2,250, 58,150, and 101, it's a total amount. It's 162.
Okay, got it.
201 is the state money from municipal grant. It's all state money.
Oh, I see. Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Town money is there. Yeah. So, is there any questions you guys have?
Joe, under the CARES Act, the $201,000, does any of that include some of what we're having now during this budget year?
Well, it's a 168. The 201 is state money. The 168.
Yeah.
So
The
yes,
160.
that's figuring using some of the so far 1,170,000 that we've received. But there's more coming. That's the first, almost half. Again, a lot of that's a little high, but I figure that's kind of the worst case of what we'll spend this year, assuming we don't do anything else differently with it.
We have to subsidize the fares and all the stuff because we're not sure if you receive, if you start collecting fares and receive them, and then we don't need to use as much. So that's just offset deficit, 168.
Right, 'cause again, we figured only half a year of collecting fares in here.
Yes.
The other thing, as Helena said, is we didn't count. We figured running full service. So, if Dial-A-Ride is slower to come back, like I suspect it will be, that is an area we'll save money because we'll run less service until it comes back more. So we didn't figure that in.
Joe?
Because we just don't know. So we kind of figured, like we always do, lower revenue to be safe and steady expenses for, even though right now we're not running everything.
Yes.
Does the budget assume a continuation of some of the COVID expenses that you identified before, such as, extra cleaning and things like that?
No, I didn't put it as much there because I figured I probably should add in a professional service. I add some professional services, but like I said, I'm not sure how much we need.
Right.
So I can add it, but what will happen with that, when I add services, there professional services, that will just add to the federal act more money. So that's kind of will offset that. So if so I can look into and add more. I can look at that, but like I said, there will be, then if the expenses going up, there will also CARE Act revenue that we have to draw from it, from the grant will go up too, proportionally. So,
Understood.
yeah.
On my, go ahead.
Like Joe said, usually we get federal money in a capital grant, but this time we got an operational, which is Connecticut unusual. We can use the money to offset our deficit in operations, which is pretty good for us, very, very good. So the money, the over $1 million now and $1 million later will help us on the long run. we getting in some kind of deficit. So that.
Helena, you might want to go through for everyone our earlier discussion about how you built up the benefits relative to the salaries and wages.
Well, the benefits, the most expensive for the benefits is health insurance, and I have a cost allocation for each grant. I have certain amount full-timers. We have a lot of full-time. We have full-timers, 13 full-timers, and rest of it, I think it's like 11 part-timers. So part-timers actually doesn't cost us as much as the full-timers. So I have a cost allocation to set up for the core services. On the other side, on microtransit, I have 2 full-time, which has health insurance. And at this point, we're not sure if that will be single premium or will be family. And so it's a big difference between single and premium. And family, it's like, I would say $12,000 difference. So in single costs around $10,000 and family will cost like $22,000 just in health insurance. Plus, there also benefits include, what is my stuff? Benefits include also 401 life insurance for the company pay. So that's why when you look at a different one, John was asking me a question before, why benefits a little different in each grant, because like I said, we, like in the dial rights, we use mostly part-timers, so part-time thing. So I don't have allocation full-timer and that, so the benefits will be cheaper than another one. And I have a cost allocation when the auditors come in and they check, make sure we follow it. So for the full-timers. So that's allocated there.
To give a benchmark for the microtransit, the benefits are about 43.8% of the base wages.
Well, what I did there, because you asked us to submit budget, I did 2 full-timers and I think 1 part-timer there, and 2 full-timer. I went with the family benefits, with the higher benefits, just in case. So that's why it's a different one. So, but like I said, the shaded area is that it's not core services. The rest of it, the core services we have, yes. So you can see that one is allocated.
On the microtransit, Helena, the 301,000, that is a full annual estimate from you?
That's what we submit. Yeah, they keep asking us to submit budget. The DOT.
Oh, right. No, that's my next question, the $1 million question. Where's our money? Did they ever respond to Leslie's calls and emails?
They respond with budget requests. Every time they ask for the budget again.
Again?
Yes. Helena, how many times have we sent them the budget?
Well, I just look at it and send them. They keep asking. I don't know if they're losing it or what they're doing with that budget, because.
Well, it's different people each time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you said that Lisa River was working on it. And
yeah. The person who asked this time, though, is somebody who will get it done.
Well, yeah. a little promising more. So this is the people who actually work on those money to get, grants and get us money. So we'll see. But like I said, that's what we submit to them for next year. And we will see. We have to wait and see what actually they give us. So.
And the other thing we've been doing
But
too.
let me just clarify this. We can use the CARES money to fund what's happening now.
Yes. It's
Okay.
Yes.
what we applied for was primarily operating assistance and preventive maintenance.
Mhm.
All the capital purchases we're doing, we're putting on existing grants. We're not
Okay.
using,
We do have capitals, yes.
we're avoiding using this because this money can be used for operating. So we're going to save that for operating as much as possible and use our existing
Mhm.
capital money.
Joe, with the budget that Helena, or both Joe and Helena, the budget you were looking at, does that allow you to fully roll out the various new ways we want to communicate with our passengers and for them to pay for the rides and so forth? I mean, that suite of electronic that you're installing, Joe, is that compromised with this budget at all?
You're talking on the fare payment side?
Yeah.
So that they don't charge any upfront costs. The only upfront cost is if we want to put in near field communication readers, which
Right.
I think maybe eventually we will, but they recommend to at first you don't. So that would be the only cost, and that would be capital anyway. We would just we would have that capital grant. And then what they charge is a processing fee of 10% of the sale. So we said even if every bit of fare collected was on there, we talk about 18,000 a year. Of course, it won't be, especially initially. And if we're already assuming only half the fare revenue, so I think I think it is built in there for the most part, because I don't know really realistically when we'll start collecting fares. I think DOTs they're already expecting that they'll get pressure really soon to start collecting fares again. So I don't think it really will be 6 months. I kind of, again, tried to picture a worst case scenario. So, realistically, maybe it's in 3 months, and then that we've already discounted fares 50% in here. So,
Okay.
I think it'll all balance out, and it's going to take a while for people to switch over to mobile, but maybe not. I mean, especially on the disabled side, these elderly disabled fares, it's going to be a lot easier for them. They don't have to come up here or online. They can just buy it on their phone. Also in the agreement was the ability to do fare capping. So I got to talk to them more about that, but that would be really nice to have. And I'm assuming people don't remember what fare capping is. So unless you all do, I won't repeat it, but fare capping is what CT Transit's doing, where people kind of just pre-fund an amount, like they put in, say, $25, and then they just get charged the base fare until they reach the next ticket level. So, for instance, in Connecticut Transit, the base fare is $1.75. A day pass is $3.50. So once somebody rides twice, they automatically get a day pass. So the third ride's free. And then if on day 2 they get up to the value of a 3-day pass, which I think is $7, then they automatically get upgraded to a 3-day pass, and so on and so forth until you hit 31-day pass value. So unless people kind of buy that pass a little at a time rather than spending it all up front, and they always get the best value. The other thing we'll be able to do is we've always for a long time, we've had a 10 ride elderly disabled pass price. We've never printed the pass because we were been planning for a long time that we're going to be going to CT transit system. So we'll be able to do that because there'll be no printing involved. So it's really easy to just make it a pass type on the app. And we could do a day pass. We've never had a day pass because, again, on paper, it's really hard to do a day pass, but it'd be really easy to do a day pass on your mobile phone. So actually something I was planning we'll put on the next agenda just to do a day pass, because that could really be a big benefit to our customers, but also to ridership. And people like day passes a lot. And Connecticut Transit pass is $350. So we would plan to go at the same price, and so once people spend $350, they could ride all day long at $350.
Helena and Joe, if you look at micro transit, is that still just the one node, the one around Old Saybrook, or is there any expansion in that number?
That is just Old Saybrook, that number.
Okay. And the second thing is, where would Route 81 occur? Are they in the regional shuttles?
Madison.
Or the Madison shuttle?
Yeah, it should say Route 81.
Yes.
Okay.
The DOT called
Madison shuttle is Route 81.
Yes.
And is $4,000 enough for you to promote that, to build a ridership?
No.
Okay. We can add that.
Yeah, we could add to that. Now we have, again, we could.
I would, Joan, with your agreement, since this is your baby,
Okay.
I would suggest that we add an appropriate amount so we can really promote that when it becomes time.
Okay. So, okay, I will talk to Joe about it. We will add the thing because, like I said, it's been difficult this year. So I add only 3.5. Okay, we will do that. I will revisit professional services to see, added that, and advertising, yes, advertising for Route 81. Okay, thank you.
And I guess my final question on that is there any, I'm just saying, given the nature of the service, is there any promotion money that's required to introduce ADA?
No, we don't want to promote ADA.
No.
No, but when it comes time.
No.
You don't want to promote ADA.
All right, I hear you. That's okay.
We're not even sure how much they will give us money. We put it there, we submit the budget to them and see what they give us. But yeah, ADA is very expensive. Yeah.
You should.
I understand.
Okay. Okay. So I will look at the professional services, maybe add advertising on Route 81, and that will all offset that our CARE Act will go up as much as expenses go up. The CARE Act, balance on the CARE Act. Okay.
Helena, on Route 81, would you also make sure, whatever you come up with, that you share that with Joan?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that we kind of keep Joan and her committee kind of linked into what we're doing.
Okay. Okay. I will have talk with Joe, and we will decide, and Joe will communicate with John.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I really am pleased because there's so much uncertainty now that you've kind of, at least you have a baseline budget, and I want to personally thank you, Helena, for some terrific work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there other comments? Charlie, do you have any comments?
No, nothing further on the budget, no.
Susan?
I'm good, thank you.
Joan?
No, thank you.
Peter?
No, thank you.
Okay. do we need to vote on approval, or should it just be a consensus of the group?
It has to go to the board.
You vote to recommend to the board. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
recommend to the board.
So I make a motion that we recommend to the board approval of the budget with the revisions we've discussed. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I think you have the approval you wanted.
Thank you.
Now we just gotta get the rest of the board to respond to the doodle poll.
Oh,
Good luck.
Unfortunately, it's all the people on the call that have already responded, so I can't ask any of you, but
Well, you know,
we've only got
No,
two
I won't say
responses so
anything.
far.
okay. Does anyone else have anything else that you'd like to?
I have a little comment. I just
Yeah.
want to, is it from our employee, our drivers? I just want to thank all of you guys because I guess you approved the bonuses, and I just witnessed all the stuff, and we actually did that in the checks, so everybody received checks, and Margaret thanked them, and Joel, and I just saw the emotional, and they couldn't believe it, and they thanked the board for all this thing they did for them, because the fuel was so emotional, I almost cried myself. So
That's
yeah,
very
they couldn't
nice.
believe. Yeah, that was very, very nice, and thank you very much for all the employees
welcome.
here, for the drivers. Thank you.
Joe, before we break, could you give us an idea of what you're expecting us to do on Friday?
Good question.
Is that, oh, okay.
The budget,
I looked at my calendar to remember what Friday is.
this coming Friday, Joe.
Yeah, so we're gonna have another meeting with the consultant to go over the final report. So they wanted to present it, and
Is that a joint meeting with Middletown Board?
it is, yep. So they just wanted to present it and walk through it, and I've already sent the feedback I've gotten already over to them, so they'll already have that and hopefully start incorporating that in. But yeah, it was just really a chance to walk through the report with you, and if you had questions.
Now, is it just going to be the boards, or are we going to have the talking heads from Condot?
I don't think they're coming. They know about it. So I think it's really just the two boards. If they are, it won't be Dennis. So if anyone comes, it's going to be, if anyone attends, it'll be Maureen and Alicia, who, they'll just sit and listen. And that's all.
Joe, just one question. I noticed in the Google responses, all of us on our board had responded in terms of attending and the timeframes. What was the response from the Middletown board people?
It was the same thing I said. I had to remind them all, and I finally got all the responses. But I think at least 2 of their 4 members will be there. Well, I know 2 of 4 were available, and hopefully another will be able to be available. The chairman had very limited availability, so picking around him, they only had 1 other member available on any of the days.
Well, I'm certainly happy that they're dedicating all of their talent to this meeting, and with only 2 board members showing up and the other 2 don't care.
Well, no.
I think we're just busting our backs on this thing. I'd like to see that we're not the only ones.
Well, it was, I think that at least one of them will make themselves available, because one was their first selectman, 2 of them. The other, I think one of the others will too, but this meeting's being recorded, so.
Now, I have to ask a very famous quote from Churchill, and it was, before the United States decided to come in join the fight in World War II, Churchill said, every meeting with them, we're going to be wooing them. But once they once Roosevelt said that he was going to fight the fight, Churchill told his generals, well, we don't have to worry about wooing them. We can now manage them. So are we in a wooing mode or in a managing mode, or what kind of mode should we as the board think about as we make our comments?
Have we adjourned the meeting already? So I can stop recording if we have.
What?
Have we adjourned the meeting already? So I can stop recording?
No, he has not.
Should we adjourn the meeting first and then finish this discussion?
Joe, I have a question in terms of Friday's meeting. It's
Yeah.
my understanding that really this is just like a presentation and discussion of the report, and that there won't be any votes taken. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
I just want to make sure.
Because this is still a draft. So
Okay.
so
And there'll be opportunity
all these
for
comments.
us as a Nine-Town Transit Board to discuss it separately. Is that correct?
Yes, and they're going to take all these comments that I've been providing them, you know, that everyone got me the written comments, and then their comments they get at the meeting, and they will take that back and for the actual final report, because this is still a draft right now.
So
Is there
we
going-
should be listening to them to make sure to see how they've incorporated our comments, but not
Well, that's-
necessarily if we disagree with them.
That's the
If we have a
question.
disagreement, should we bring it up or should we wait?
I think it's going to depend what the disagreement is. So some of the stuff that you might not agree with, it's not necessarily coming from them.
Okay.
Yeah, so
With regard to the report on the discussion Friday, will we be looking at a revised draft or simply going over the comments that both board members on both sides have already submitted?
I will ask her. I'm not sure what exactly the plan was, because I don't know if she anticipated as much comment as we're getting. So
Okay.
I'll ask her what her plan is there.
Yeah, we'll never underestimate John and me.
By the way, Joe, did you
No, it would be
you got my
helpful.
comments this morning, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Joe, I think it would be
Also
helpful, based upon Susan's question, as to which version of the report we're going to be going through on Friday.
Well, I know she's doing slides.
Nice if we were told in advance, you know, those of us on our board, knew in advance which version of the report we're going to be reviewing. And that's the question is, the other question is it the report we're going to be reviewing, or is it just going to be a PowerPoint presentation from the consultants?
It's a PowerPoint.
Okay.
That's her plan. It's a presentation. It's not the detail. Yeah, it's not going to be like flip through the report. It's going to be a slideshow. That I know.
Okay.
She also had asked me about any service. If we wanted to go into service stuff, I said we should do that in a separate meeting.
If it's a PowerPoint, what's the point of the meeting? What's our goal?
I think it's more so they can hear from you, and hopefully if DOT's there, they can hear from you. Even though we got them a lot of stuff in advance, I think they're expecting you have questions. You know, some of the stuff
Okay, now a little bit, so they're going to give the presentation and they're looking for feedback from us, but in actuality, we had provided feedback through our comments.
Yeah.
So on Friday's meeting, do we provide our comments again in a general manner based upon
I
the
think
slide that we're looking at in the presentation, or what?
I will see if she's going to be able to get your comments in before. That was the point. She wanted it in advance so they could incorporate it. I think the more the idea is going to be, we could ask questions that you may have if things weren't clear. I mean, some of your comments were questions, you know, and not necessarily just comments. Some of the things were you had questions about what was being presented. So I think they just wanted to have more of a discussion before a final draft. And again, I think they had offered a session on the service, which I think would be a good thing too. So they could walk through all the service recommendations they have.
Joe, will they send us a copy of the presentation so we each have that?
I will ask for it.
Okay, because
That would
I
be
don't
nice
have the
to-
ability to kind of look at the presentation
It
on
would
my
be good
screen.
to do that if we got that ahead of the meeting,
Yeah, that way we'd be able to go through
right?
and distill our points in a more pithy way.
John,
I heard
you're
some
always
laughter.
busy.
You have any
Well,
questions?
no, I just think that I'm sure everyone has 2 or 3 points that they really feel passionate about.
Yeah, that's
And I think it's the way of getting our board, and I'm assuming the Middletown board, so that we've thought about how we're going to ask our questions, and so it's a more organized meeting if we have at least something to look at before the meeting.
Yeah, I will tell her you'd like them in advance. I'll probably be the day before.
That's fine. That'd take a long time, but just so that we have a chance to bring ourselves up to speed.
Especially if she's going to incorporate your comments in.
Hey, Joe,
Joe, just out of curiosity, did you get many comments or questions from the Middletown board?
Not yet.
Sorry?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
no.
They'll come in on Saturday.
I don't mean to throw a wrench into the works here, but I have wondered whether a joint meeting with the boards is premature, given that there are a number of very significant concerns that several of us board members have about that report, and whether the best way to deal with that is with our first meeting with our potential partners, as opposed to dealing with those issues within our own board and the consultant first.
Susan, I fully agree with that. I don't think of meeting with the other team, if we're really still not sure of what all our positions are within our own team.
That's my concern.
Well, I think again that this
I
is
fully agree with that, and I think, based on that, it might well be premature
Well,
to
Good
have a
thought.
joint with
I
them
mean,
before we have another meeting to sort out our own ideas.
So I think, again, the goal is for them to present it to you. It doesn't mean you're going to get into all the details here, but present it here. I think it'll be beneficial for you to hear Middletown's response. I think you'll kind of get a feel for how their board's thinking. And then we can meet next week if we want
If we had
and go
If we
over
had some comments,
specific
Joe, if we had some comments from them, it would enable us to get a feel of what their ideas are.
Yes, it would, but I don't have any yet. So,
Granted, what's the point of meeting with them?
well, because when they're in person, they will ask. So remember, they got 2 first selectmen. So, they've got a lot going on. We haven't gotten comments from our first selectmen that are on our board yet either. So that's kind of the nature of having first selectmen on your board. They're really busy, and you get their attention pretty much just when you have them in the room. And the other 2, I think one of the 2 will have some comments. The other one not. In my prediction. I don't think this does not have to be our only meeting. We could have it we could have another meeting next week once you've had a chance to, we heard all the information and we process it.
The other thing that is going through my mind is that we have, nine people on our board. And we haven't really determined from a board perspective whether there is unanimous or substantive agreement on the issues that have been raised. I'm only one person. John's only one person. People may not agree with what the concerns are that we have raised. And to go into this meeting Friday and begin to articulate those when we haven't done that first as a board makes me uncomfortable.
And I think the other problem we have is at least one place in the report, it says that you envision, and I think this is a good way of looking at it, that this is going to be an agreement between the two boards and Condot. And so if Condot doesn't have an executive coming to the meeting, but just a listener, that means that 1/3 of the group that should be in the final determining group is not there.
This is just an exchange of viewpoints. Is that it? It certainly can't go beyond that.
Right, no, it's just a presentation. It's a presentation of the draft up to this point, and I think that's all it is. And it's an
Okay.
opportunity to ask questions, get more clarification. DOT is on the committee, so they know, they've had tons and tons of input already. And a lot of things, there's several things in there that you have comments on that they said they want in. So they've already had plenty of their say. Yeah, they are very much involved. So yeah, they've had a lot. They've had a lot to say. Every bit of it's been through Dennis and all of them. So they definitely are represented in the report.
Joe,
So let's come back to
Joe-
a point that Susan raised. That I think Susan brought up the idea that we have another meeting, just our board, on this issue next week.
Yeah.
And I more and more we talk, I think that's a very good idea because it allows us, as we're talking on Friday, to be nice and pleasant. Not really, if there's a really tough issue, not view our dirty laundry in front of our potential partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way we could keep this meeting as a nice meeting and friendly and so forth, and then have a meeting where we really sit down and hammer out our position on some very critical issues.
Right. And I don't know that the consultant would even be at that. I mean, that's probably just a board meeting, right? Unless you have a consultant should be there.
That's your choice. You understand.
I don't see
that
any
dynamic.
having the consultant there. I mean,
I think it's
Okay, well,
important.
in that case, what we're going to do is have a meeting like we had a couple of times ago where we met at the Essex Town Hall.
yes, yeah, like more like a working.
And each of us had points that we just put on the table and everything. That was it's that style of meeting I think we need.
Yeah.
What do you think, Susan?
I agree. I think the timing is reversed from what it should be, but
This is Joan. I think that I agree we need to have the meeting, but I think also at the meeting, we just can't express opinions like we have in the past. We have to make sure that the board is in agreement with all the comments and suggestions that are being made, because lots of time, because at that meeting that we had in Essex, everybody had different points, and which were good because we were trying to put up the list and prioritize it. But we have to go to that one step further and say, okay, this is the stuff as a board. Do we all agree with this comment, with that suggestion, with that suggestion? Because otherwise, if we don't do that, you're not going to know completely if everybody's in agreement or not. Because some people do have a tendency not to give their feedback completely.
Oh, and
Just
and we
Very
need,
good idea, Joan.
and we need clear direction of where to
Right.
go forward.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, we need one set of clear direction of where we're going.
Then all of that suggests to me this is a very pro forma meeting on Friday.
Well, I think you want to hear the report before the draft, before we have our comments, right? I mean, we need to know what the draft. We want to kind of have them walk through the draft, make sure everyone's been through it, because even we, outside of the finance committee, not all of our board members are as involved. Some will not have read it yet on Friday. Some are going to wait for the presentation. So, let's get everyone to be
Okay.
up to speed on the draft report before we get discussing kind of what we want in the final report. You know, and right now we're really still at that point. It's more of what's going to be in the report than, and what are the next, you know, and the things that are relevant to the report than the details of the negotiations yet. You know, we're not at that level.
Joe, one thing I felt like when I was reading the report, and this is just, was that there's some really meaty final conclusions at the end of the report, like on page 50 and 60 and so forth. And of course, if you're going through a report, you're dealing with, you know, you start at the beginning and you kind of work your way through, and you run out of energy towards the end. And I just would say, I hope that as you and the young lady are thinking about what to present, is that you design it so that what's really important gets up front.
Let her know.
Because,
I'll let her know.
okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure it's highlighted in their presentation. Now,
Right.
say all of the other presentations I didn't see until maybe some of them I might have gotten just before the meeting, but usually not until the meeting. So I will tell her that.
And by the way, I don't mind receiving this, you know, at 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. I mean, if she's not going to have it ready, that's fine.
I don't agree.
But it probably will. What?
I do mind receiving it at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Sorry, Susan.
I don't see any reason why. These people have been paid $400,000. Tell them they have to submit a PowerPoint presentation copy to us no later than 5 o'clock Thursday night, period.
I will ask. Again, they're not our consultant, unfortunately. That's part of the problem.
Apparently they're not anybody's consultants.
Well,
They're just out
They
there doing
are.
their own thing.
they are, but some people are nicer than I am.
People are what?
Are nicer than me. They have a very detailed scope, and there's things in the scope that they want more money to do. And I said, it's in the scope. Why would we pay them more?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And
Yep.
they agree to pay them more. So, but that's not, that's not.
It's very hard to feel charitable toward this group at this point, given everything we've learned and
We
how
have
much
no say
extra,
over it.
how much extra work you and Helena have had to put into this.
Yeah, but like I said, unfortunately, we have very little say. All we can really do is express. I can express my opinions, and
Yep.
and
Well,
I
I think the contract has been managed poorly.
express them very forcefully, but in the end, I don't get to make any decisions on it.
All
Is
right.
Sam going to be at the meeting?
I don't know yet. He hasn't. I don't know that he accepted the.
I saw his email. He said I will be there. Sam?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he can tell them what we need by what time.
Yeah, I mean they generally listen to me, like I said, but they're they're usually pretty good about listening for the most part. But you know, it's still
Can I have one, from my point of view, one final comment, and that is I want to thank Joe, you, and I want to thank Helena for all the effort you put in terms of this report. And I know that in some of my comments, you might say, gosh, why does he keep harping on the same thing? But I just really, I think all of us appreciate the amount of work that you personally have put into this, and I want to thank you very much.
Don, that doesn't mean you're leaving right now, does it?
No.
That's usually your exit line. I'd like to go back to this issue. I think Joe is the most likely, a lot better than Sam in presenting it, because Joe knows a lot of the nuances that have been expressed in the last 15 minutes here. And some of them are little traps, and some are reflective of deep thought. But Joe knows how we feel, which Sam won't have any idea. And I just think that Joe would be the best to talk to them. Right, Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to him.
Okay.
And I'm sure if I asked for it, we'll get it. My point was just that I can't be so, I was only so forceful I can be. I have to be nice and ask, because they're not our, it's not our contract in the end. So I can't enforce anything on the contract. I could just be loud and annoying. That I'm pretty good at. Ask DOT.
Is there anything else? I think we're pretty much very close to the end, but I want to make sure that we've got any last comments on this.
Well, I certainly enjoyed Susan's and your, John, comments on this whole thing. I thought they were well thought out, stimulating the little pieces in my brain that require stimulation periodically. And I thought it was a good job. And I want to thank the two of you, because you dug up stuff that hadn't occurred to me yet. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very helpful. And like, I'll just tell you one thing, as I said, that DOT had input on. DOT was very specific that the fact that we had financial problems had to be in there. So they will not take that out. That was
like at least put about when they occurred.
Yes. So I think, John, your approach is the way we go, is that, when that's been a long time, but
yeah. Well, that's a comment that Susan first made. And then I looked at the data to just add some numbers to it.
Yeah. So
thanks, Susan.
There are things like that they were insistent to be in there. So
well, that's what happens when you have a predetermined outcome and you have to support it after the fact.
Well, that's what the federal government does. I sat next to a guy years ago, and he told me, oh, we knew what the answer should be, so we built up the mathematical support for it.
Yeah.
It's called
reverse engineering.
Well, I think that the point they were trying to get at, and I don't know that maybe it doesn't explain it well, or maybe they don't, the way they've worded it doesn't get there to the point well, is, they're just trying to build the case that these small organizations keep having these issues because it really comes down to, when you're at this size, it comes down to one or two key people. And if you lose one of those people and get somebody in not as qualified, you can have issues. And that's really the point they were trying to make. And because it's happened over and over in Connecticut. It happens all the time. And you just don't, in a small organization, you don't have all the other staff, you don't have mid-management level people that keep the organization going, even if there is a bad person at the top. It is just your three staff people. So that was the point they were trying to make. And maybe they could make that better than highlighting how we have problems. The bigger issue is, they just want to make the point that you're more susceptible to issues because you're reliant on much fewer people than a large organization.
Well, John, as our chairman, how about focusing on this and bringing it to a summary to see where we all go?
Well, I think we've all talked. Let me say two things. I think we're very close to adjournment, so this will be quick. We know what we're going to have is meeting on Friday, and it's a meeting to meet our potential fellow board members and get to know them. It's a meeting to really to understand kind of how they've taken our various comments and they're settling in. But that in terms of building a consensus within our board, that we have another meeting coming up next week, or could be a little later, but after this one, where we really go through and make sure that on all these points that the board is in agreement, and that will take some talking and modification as it should. And with that, if I don't hear any other questions, I think it's time for an adjournment. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I want to thank everyone, Joe and Helena. Thank you as always for great work. And Lisa, in advance, thank you for your minutes.
You're welcome, John.
Thank you. Thanks, Helena.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you guys.
See you